So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad? Tom asked, as he stood panting, sword held low.
Would you like me to be nice or harsh? Rachuk questioned.
The captain actually seemed less exhausted than the human, a testament to just how outmatched Tom was. The magic blade of the captain certainly helped immensely, but Tom mostly blamed the cold. He could even see his breath as they sparred in the Grand Hall. Rachuk didn't even need to have his wings folded out behind him to shed the heat. The two had been sparring for quite some time by now. Tom hoped at least an hour. They had made a little impromptu arena in the Grand Hall by moving some benches and tables out of the way, and they had an assortment of weapons and armour laid out for them to practice with. Go on, be harsh. It's even worse than last time, isn't it?
In your defence, it has been quite some time since your last bout, the captain replied, confirming Tom's fears. And you are using a sharpened weapon. You are being cautious. You haven't even gotten close once. It teaches good blade control and choreography. Besides, it is more a matter of precision and prediction at this tempo. Let me know when you are ready to get closer to actual battle pace, Rachuk said confidently. Tom wasn't entirely sure if he was chiding or not, but he suspected not. Right. Tom would be lying if that didn't hurt a little, but it was the truth. The training had pretty much just consisted of him trying his very best, even to touch the captain with the tip, which had devolved into him more or less trying to kill the man with the training blade. Even so, the only times Tom had managed to even touch him was when Rachuk wanted to prove a point. Namely, how striking there was no use on account of his armour. He could take some solace in the disparity in weaponry. Rachuk's control of his blade's inertia, or whatever it was, made parrying child's play. And even with minimal effort, he could punish Tom whenever he parried poorly. At least he didn't have the strength to just bat aside a decent block, so Tom was thankful for that. So, about that verdict. Tom tried again, as he wiped sweat off his brow and stood tall once more. 2 on technique, a 3 for lethality, through sheer enthusiasm and endurance.
3 out of 10. I guess I'll have to shoot for 4 by spring, Tom joked, trying to see the bright side. In truth, he had no intention to ever fight with a blade if it came down to it, but that would not stop Rachuk. And who knew? He might not get the choice.
I am sure we can do better than that now. Would you stop hunching like you are armed with some craven dagger? You are not some hoodlum from Bartelion, mugging old fathers in the market.
Where is some pocket sand when you need it? Tom complained, straining his back and bringing the blade to one of the ready positions Rachuk had taught him. He couldn't remember what he was supposed to do next, so he just tried stabbing center mass. Rachuk stepped back and swiped the blade aside.
Too much commitment. I would never let you run me through. Expect the parry and plan your following move. Letting me parry, then act in my own time puts you at my mercy, Rachuk explained, as he kept up the defensive work against Tom's clumsy attempts.
Goddamn chess games, Tom joked to himself, as he tried to get in nice and close, Rachuk backpedaling to hold his preferred range. Tom might be sweaty and his arms ached, but he knew the captain was drained from using that magic blade so much, even if he didn't need to keep himself warm for the moment on account of all the hard work.
Good. Keep the jaw moving. Your footwork is poor. Do not let me exploit the mistakes. Keep moving and keep me guessing. You are hardly following any manuals and such may surprise me. And if you do make a critical error, move on very swiftly, Rachuk instructed, while he continued to lead the human around before going back onto the offensive, picking up the tempo to where Tom could hardly keep up. Certainly not in any organized fashion. Soon enough, he was backpedaling as fast as he could without losing his footing. It was all he could do to bring the dull training blade up in time, sparks flying as the mithril blade broke off shards of the subpar steel, sending them flying. Eye protection was not something the Dragonettes took particularly seriously, but Tom felt quite happy hiding behind his safety goggles right about now. When losing a battle of skill, one should look for unorthodox paths to victory, or simply train harder. Luckily, you are excellent at the first option, Rachuk said, possibly joking. Tom honestly had a hard time telling at the moment. Or get more friends, Tom tried, trying to get in on the banter. Or better ones, yes. But yes, numbers win battles many days. Though I would not trust 5 labourers to a well-trained knight, not even 10 if they lack surprise. But with a well-laid plan and the will to act, most anyone can turn the tide of a fight. That's why you were playing games with Paulin? Tom questioned,
hoping to break the captain's concentration. "No? What are you referring to? We have not partaken in games," Chuck protested, seeming genuinely confused at what Tom meant. "Back when you played How to Take the Keep, remember? Explosive barrels, Clearer, and all that?" "Oh, right, I see. No, that was simply an exercise in planning adaptation to novel attack plans. Like I said, a plan is an important part in achieving victory." "Right," Tom replied sarcastically. The plan was working. Chuck had slowed down his onslaught as he seemed to fight on autopilot. It honestly made Tom a little bit scared that he was losing to the equivalent of someone zoned out while driving, but it might give an opening. Just need to surprise him. "Oh, well, that's playing games in my book. War games," Tom carried on between laboured breaths. "Basically a date round here, I think." "It was no such thing," Chuck responded, with what could almost be called outrage as Tom lunged forward, aiming to tap the captain on the side of the hip. Instead, the captain stepped aside, half-folded wings dragging him out of Tom's way with a half-hearted flap. The captain gave Tom a solid shove to the shoulder, sending him to the ground, rolling onto his back. "And that was highly unsporting." "Still lost," Tom declared with a sigh, as he laid on the floor panting. "Could we do target shooting instead?" "No, I am quite capable of hitting you from here," Chuck declared, pointing at Tom with his offhand finger gun. "And you have expired." "God damn it. Also, we gotta work on your one-liners." "My what now?" "So, how long was this gonna last again?" Tom questioned, already getting thoroughly sick of the screaming winds. He'd had a little peek outside the shutters earlier that day, but he couldn't even see the ground for the flurry of snow. He couldn't even make out a shadow from any of the buildings. There was no way they were going outside in this weather to do anything but bring in fuel. And even that would be anything but fun. He didn't even know how deep the snow on the stairs was. They might need to tunnel at this rate. The two were sitting in the kitchen trying to force down dinner. It certainly wasn't very enjoyable. Neither of them were much of a chef, and there was still plenty to do other than try to make rations palatable. So there they sat, chewing on meat that had more in common with leather, alongside a bowl of some kind of porridge which Chuck had prepared. Tom did have a wedge of cheese that he had nicked from Jackie's stores, and some dried sausage that was quite tasty, unlike the jerky. "Impossible to say. Days at least. More likely weeks. Raoul's magic is decent, but the further into the future he sees, the greater the uncertainty. Normally, anything beyond a day is a strong hunch at best." "Sounds just like weather forecasts back home. All our fancy toys and working out if it will rain in 3 hours is beyond us," Tom complained, casting his mind back to the many times the Danish weather had decided to defy predictions and instead met expectations to ruin another day out. "Truly?" the captain questioned, seeming quite surprised by the idea. "More like how we go about it isn't very reliable, but yes, more or less." "I suppose you do still have your weaknesses. Strangely comforting in a disheartening sort of way." "Don't kid yourself. Not like we're going to be opening up a path home now, are we? That's a can of worms we ought to never, ever touch. But at least I don't think you would have much oil." "Do you mean the gravity oil?" "Oh, gods. No, they would go to war over that back home. I mean crude oil. Thick, black stuff that burns." "Do you mean tar?" "No, not that either, but closer. Thinner, more liquid tar that comes out of the ground is a nice way to think about it, I suppose." "I see. And this oil is important. Why?" "We use it as fuel. My core was made to run on a refined version. I think I've been over this, haven't I?" "It is certainly possible. I can hardly remember all your ramblings." "I suppose that is fair. I can't even remember half of the ready stances you taught me." "I could see that, yes," Chuck said with a chuckle. "Whew. One day I am going to get you. Like the Yanks would get you guys in the war." "Naturally. All you have to do is point at me, it seems. Even you can manage that." Chuck was definitely laying on the sarcasm thick now. It was only fair, and Tom had definitely been asking for it. "Soon you too shall have that power. For now, the shotgun should maybe not be trusted against armor. In the face, though, that should do the trick." "I shall keep it in mind. I would never have thought of such a thing." "Naturally, all this magic has made you complacent," Tom joked right back, thoroughly enjoying the shit-talking now that there weren't swords involved.
Says the man who cannot wield a sword. I would like to know just what essential skills have been lost by your people. Can you even light a fire without using oil?
Sure, I'll just use alcohol instead. But you're right, there are so many things we haven't got a clue about. But just as many things where you would make a complete fool of yourself. I still remember watching Sapphire and Esmeralda try to find some songs on the computer. We have children as young as Kieran who would put even Aditya to shame on a computer.
I suppose one must give up something to learn something new. Only so many hours in a day.
Yep, and we have gotten really good at spending that time on what we want to do rather than what we have to. All our advancements, and they tend to boil down to staying around for longer, making someone else not stay around, and making our time more comfortable.
Simple primal urges. Who does not wish to live a life of eternal luxury without anyone you dislike to bother you?
Bit more elegantly said. Not like we're at the top of the tech tree, though. Not even close. I couldn't even guess at what the folks back home would pay for your mother.
I'm sorry, what?
Woodchuck burst out, clearly taking that the wrong way. Her services, relax. Healers. She can fix things we never could. And that tea I got a while back would make a fortune too, that's for sure. Whatever it was.
Well, it was hardly cheap if that is what you think, the captain countered, coming back down a little.
Yeah, but not by a city with money to spare sort of expensive either. Hell, I'm sure you could get a whole private army for it back home, and not one armed with pointy sticks either. The captain gave an indignant huff before shaking his head.
I suppose as the first ever dose it would be a subject of study.
Whew, yeah. And your blade? They would spirit that away to a laboratory to try their darndest to work out how it ticks. If it even does. It's not like anyone has ever brought a magic item back. Nothing has ever been back, or come here before now.
That seems to be the consensus, yes. Let us keep it that way. I remember well your explanations of what lay beyond. Whatever it is that separates us. The devil you know over the devil you don't.
Amen to that. Tom raised the glass of ale, and the captain met him in a toast. It helped wash down the rather unappetizing meal. They did have a crackling fire going, to heat the kitchen to a more tolerable temperature. Further up and down, the frost had already taken hold. The once slick wet walls and floors covered with ice which only grew by the day. It made the rounds really quite dangerous, especially the stairs and ladders all now covered in ice. At least it hurt less when you fell here. And with Woodchuck rarely about, Tom's dignity got off equally light. But he was beginning to envy the captain's clawed feet. And for the record, they would also totally will away your mother to work out how she ticks. If you know what I mean.
No place is safe from the Inquisition,
Woodchuck replied more somberly, understanding Tom's meaning. Oh, it's even better. You think we got only one?
Why am I not even surprised?
We even have to give them letters to work out who is who, so you can work out how screwed you are.
Naturally, it is only logical, the captain replied sarcastically. I should have guessed.
Careful, or the ATF will come for skitters. Actually, yeah. Where is the little guy? Tom broke out, realizing he hadn't seen the little critter around.
Frozen solid, most likely. We shall see come spring if he survives, Woodchuck said, seeming unworried.
Right, yeah, lizard. You know, are you sure it's the tea that makes this all work, right? Are you sure you can't just, do it already?
I believe quite enough have died from the cold to prove it, yes, Woodchuck replied dryly, seeming less than impressed with Tom. There is a reason winter body clearer is a job in most cities. I believe you may ask Ray should you wish to learn more.
Right, yeah. Should have thought about that. Tom did feel a little ashamed of that. He had only wanted to be funny. Well, with a little luck, it might be their last time going under. We're going to be running this place hot all year round in the future.
That truly will be a delight, though what a fuel. A large part of why we are not currently letting the fires roar is just how hungry they are. Would your idea use less somehow?
Should, yeah. Not so much heat going straight out the chimney, but you do have a point. Gonna need a lot of coal.
That thing is coal-fired?
Woodchuck exclaimed in a half-defeated voice. Like he was kicking himself for not guessing so earlier. Yeah, we use charcoal in the forge all the time.
Yes, but you put this furnace in the room below, did you not? There was going to be coal dust spread all around even more. Gods, I knew I should have sided with Father on getting an outdoor smithy constructed all those years ago. Not that it would have mattered.
Shiva gets her way.
That she does.
Don't think I've ever heard of a smithy being inside the big buildings before either, to be frankly honest. Why is that?
It is a touch unusual, yes, though not unheard of, especially as one travels north. We cannot truly say, of course. The decision was made centuries ago. But usually it is done to salvage the heat produced by the forge for heating what lies above. It has also made possible the use of the wind-driven bellows. That will be far more troublesome on the ground, I suspect.
I guess that makes sense. A lot of fuel going through that fire. Shame to let all that heat be wasted.
Yes, the heat from the forge staying within the walls truly is a blessing, though one must mind the flame or risk losing one's home.
Another reason Shiva gets her way.
She would never let such a thing occur, no. I am far less confident in some of our newer additions.
Oh yes, half of that lot should be supervised at all times.
How reassuring.
Yeah, anyway, I did actually want to ask you something. Speaking of assistants...
I knew this time would come. Please, what matter do you need me to while away the hours on?
The captain was evidently resigned to his fate already, which suited Tom just fine, even if he had hoped for a little more enthusiasm. I have had a look, and while I can do some work, I ain't getting the heating put together without the others. Just not going to happen. So, I have been hatching a plan.
If it involves Blitzgel, I am not interested.
No, trust me, you'll like this one. I want a whole Christmas.
Tom, I haven't the faintest clue what Christmas might be, Woodchuck interrupted,
leaning his head on an arm braced against the table like a bored schoolchild.
Well, I am getting to that part. Patience, dear sensei. I do not understand that either.
Tom just chuckled and got to the point. It is a celebration in the midst of winter. Great food, gifts, singing, dancing, drinking, a tree. That part is very important. Don't ask me why.
Why am I not surprised you hold a summer festival in the depths of winter?
Hey, come now. You can't tell me people couldn't use a little bit of cheering up before they all die from cabin fever?
I suppose that much is true, yes. Though this really is a better winter than most, would it not be more fitting to indulge in some more of your entertainments?
Well, about that. Gonna be a bit hard without any sun for the electronics to charge.
Woodchuck furrowed his brow a little at that. I thought you said they run on tiny lightning.
They do, but I made lightning with the sun. Let's leave that one for another time, Tom offered, the captain nodding in agreement. We can't really do a proper Christmas, but just something, you know? I was thinking a few gifts for the kids and some food no one has ever seen before. Just something fun, you know? And put it on when people wake up as a sort of surprise.
Tom, we do not know when that may be. We do not control the weather.
All the more reason to get on with it.
So how do I fit into this latest grand scheme of yours?
Well, you see, I'm both going to need a hand in the kitchen and also with some of the gifts. Are you any good at painting? Good fucking God, will you just shut up? Tom cursed to himself, receiving only screaming wind in reply. How the fuck can it be stormy for days on end? Even a goddamn hurricane doesn't last this long. Do they? The news coverage sure doesn't. It was a rather unwelcome distraction, especially as he was trying to conserve power while there was no sun around, which meant no earbuds, at least not all day long. There was also a limit to just how many times he could stand listening to the same downloaded songs on repeat. But designing the Blitzgel power station would have to wait, along with the finishing touches on the rifles, as well as the last few bits for the heating system. He had plenty ready, so once the workforce thawed out again, they would have more than enough to work with. That way, Shiva and Dakota hopefully wouldn't notice he hadn't been quite so productive while they slept, as one might hope. But it would all be worth it. With Woodchuck recruited, rather easily much to Tom's surprise, he had more important matters to attend to, namely the children's toy to rule them all. Sadly, they had no plastic, so wood would have to do. He had kinda wished Collinger was up and about, because he sure could use a hand, but where skills failed, technology prevailed. Oh, this is going to be genius, Tom mused to himself, trying his best to ignore the wind as the mill whirred away. Wood chips fine all around. The block didn't end up with quite the surface finish he had wanted. In fact, it was rough as fuck. Right, off you come, he snickered, as he loosened the vise and extracted the precious wooden rectangle. Some sandpaper and oil? It'll be fine, Tom dismissed, as he got out the calipers. 3187, we are in business. I wonder how long it will keep it. Probably going to need to keep the correct hydration level at least. Fucking wood. Oh well, let's see. He pressed the little brick down onto its partner, smiling as he felt the joint grow stiff. So far so good. Setting the bricks down on the worktop, he got out the feeler gauge and tried to slip it between the bricks. And... no gaps? Yes. What you doing in here? The familiar voice of Rachuk said from behind him. Tom steps aside to show his work, gesturing with pride. Engineering. Rachuk stared for a moment, glancing at the human twice before asking, Is this some sort of joke? No, it's legally distinct wooden Lego. Do not tell Billund. Tom, I haven't the faintest clue what a Lego is. Perfect. Snitches get stitches. These are wooden play blocks. They fit together snugly so you can build anything you want. Imagination and the brick supply are the only limits. You have made 2 wooden blocks that fit together. Using that, Rachuk replied, slowly, gesturing at the mill which was now covered in wood chips and dust. Yes, it is a bit short of how we do it back home, and this is the wrong material. It will not keep spec. Wood is such a bastard. Maybe I should try with steel anyway. No, wood is fine. It is more, cheaper, Tom offered. I didn't want to say it, but yes. Well, sadly it is true, but now that I have the marks down, I should be able to make lots of them. And that brings me to your job. You'll be sanding and oiling these. Sanding? Oh, right, sorry, no sandpaper. You'll be using a file to make the sides smooth, but no touching the parts here and here, Tom went, taking a brick apart and gesturing. Those are sacred, no touching. Then after that, you are going to oil them to keep them pretty. We can't use paint, it would ruin the tolerances. It is bad enough that it is cold in here. Tom, this is a children's toy. Are you quite sure you are not suffering from this cabin fever you talked about? This is a religious artifact of my people, and the birthplace of many engineers and other people who make stuff. Right. I would say go outside, but perhaps running laps in the Grand Hall could help. Hey, more care went into that than half of your religious figurines. Tom, you have been here for a matter of hours. I do not think so, the captain responded, tone indicating that he was about to be done with Tom's shit. And the amount of hours that went into getting to the point I can just do that, I honestly have no idea. Anyway, file, oil, just make them look pretty. I'm going to make a whole box of them in different sizes. Shame I can't do the little round studs on top, but that would take way too long on a machine like this. Squares will have to do. Rachuk just shook his head. You best not forget sparring or your rounds tonight. Of course not. 5 hours of this, I'll be begging for something else to do. But I must make shafts, blocks of holes, and at least a few gears. I must also find string. Do we have any very thin string? You have spent unfathomable hours figuring out how to fit blocks together. I'm sure you can figure out where the string is kept. Sparring before dinner. Do not forget, or I shall remind you, Rachuk declared, turning around in the doorway and walking back to whence he came, leaving Tom chuckling to himself. Aw, did I step on your toes? Oh, Esmeralda's sewing supplies. It would seem Tom had indeed struck a nerve, and a rather tender one at that, he had to conclude, as he tried to sleep that night. He was cold, battered and bruised, and tired as all hell. He didn't quite get how things had become harder ever since the others went to sleep. It was just him and another guy. It should have been a great time. But alas, he underestimated his partner in crime. It wasn't fair to just blame Rachuk, of course. He just wanted to keep a schedule, and now Tom didn't have anyone to help him do the heavy lifting in the shop. Or just as accurately, someone to do the work while he tooted away with paper and pencil all day. Or the computer, if things were getting serious. But it was cathartic. He'd gotten to sit down and just make something, start to finish. Well, nearly. He had still handed off the finishing work to Rachuk. So maybe he was preaching a little highly here, since really he'd just had a reduction in willing manpower. but it will be worth it. I can totally make enough blocks to build a keep, winch door and all. Then someone else can make little figurines. Ooh. Woodchuck's imaginary keep from the game with Paulin. Oh, he better not steal it. But maybe that is an angle to get him a little more interested. Hi there, Paulin. Yes, I am in fact an uptight, law-abiding citizen with a sword willing to slay a heretic for you. Oh, this is my battle map of the keep, of course. Would you like to see? Tom muttered quietly to himself, doing his best Woodchuck impression. It was completely hopeless, but it still brought him a little joy. Lego Castle Wingman mission. I won't say it's never been done before, but it's definitely a first in this world. Huh. Gonna need all the bells and whistles. Damn shame I can't put little lights inside. I should find a nice box, too, and wrapping paper. A fur might have to do, and a red bow. Probably don't have that, either. Maybe, I guess string will be fine. Yeah, a whole toy set that I made. With only a little help from Woodchuck. They will love it. You know what? Tomorrow I shall do it start to finish. I'll get the indexer set up again, and I will make some gears. I wonder where that thing is. Tink's probably used it back when... Wait, no. We never did get around to that, did we? Those 2 gears on the mill are hand-filed. Shit. I guess I have to make an indexer then, to make fake Lego. This is the way. This is the way. Metal. Metal shafts, yes. Polished and oiled.